Welcome to the Inspiring International Potential podcast. Created by GC International Trade, this podcast aims to fire up businesses in the northwest of England to explore their international growth potential. My name is John Quinton-Barber and I'm the host of this episode. Today we're talking about India. My guests are Divia Patel Smith, who's International Trade Advisor, and Lakshmi Kaul, Head of Representative UK at the Confederation of Indian Industry. But before we start, I'd like to signpost you to the GC International website where you'll find information about up-and-coming masterclasses. Go to international.growthco.uk/events. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guests today. Hi Divya and hi Lakshmi.
Hello, namaste.
Lakshmi, I'm going to turn to you straight away because I want you to tell us about the Confederation of Indian Industry. What is its role within India and your role and the types of activities that you're involved in the UK?
Certainly. It's lovely to be here. Inspiring international potential is exactly what everybody needs to be doing. Of course, the pandemic crisis has sort of pushed us all back and demotivated us. But that's what industry does best at times of crisis. So the Confederation of Indian Industry turns 125 this year. So we are an international organization, but we were founded actually by 5 British companies about 125 years ago. Wow. There's a very British legacy to the CII's journey. What does CII do? CII is a representative Indian industry body. We represent Indian companies, not just in India. And we have a very extensive presence in India, of course, because that's where we are present. But we also have international offices. United Kingdom happens to be one of the oldest CII offices. So what do? We represent the interests of the Indian industry wherever we are, whether it is in India, rallying support behind the Indian companies, what will make a very helpful, facilitative policy environment, what will help in talking to the governments and various other international sort of bodies. So in the UK, the CII has been around for nearly 40 years. We are co-located with the Confederation of British Industry, who we have a very special relationship with. And we work very, very closely with the Department of International Trade, the UK government, other departments, your colleagues in various other departments in the government. We work very closely with the UK IBC. So we have an extensive presence across UK, not just in London. I personally have been a very, very strong campaigner of making sure that Indian companies don't just come and look at London as the destination. It may be the starting point until we sort out the connectivity issues with the other regions. But really, CII's primary role is to represent the interest of Indian companies. Over the years, now the role has expanded to helping facilitate access to UK companies to expand in India. And it's the UK-India economic corridor that we support.
Wow, thank you for that great explanation. I think 125 years as well. There's been some rich history in the Confederation, and I imagine many relationships. And we're going to touch on this later, Lakshmi, because I think it is about obviously the two-way stream here. It's about Indian companies in the UK, but also the Northwest companies that may be listening that want to go and invest and actually set up over in India. So we've got some rich conversation coming up. But before we start, Divya, I'm going to turn to you. I think you're International Trade Advisor. If I was a young lad again, which clearly that's a long way ago, I was going down to the careers office and I saw that on the screen, International Trade Advisor. I think I'll be after that. That would certainly light me up. So tell me, what is an International Trade Advisor? What's your role, and how long have you been doing it? And what do you get up to in your day job?
Yeah, sure. Yes, it is an interesting role. My daughter, when she first actually when she got to the age of old enough knowing, she thought I was an international spy. So it makes it sound a lot more fun than what it actually is. So she's like an international spy or something. But an international trade advisor. So it's a fantastic role. I've been doing the job for over 17 years now. I was working under what used to be Business Link Lancashire when it all first started. We've had various name changes in the Department of International Trade, but however, our focus has always been the same. It's to help UK businesses to export, to help them grow overseas, to work with our various partners overseas, as well, Chamber of Commerce and also the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. And my role entails to help any type of business to sell with be it their products or services overseas. It's a fantastic role in the sense not every day is the same. One day you could be going into a company and they want to sell children's toys. Then you could be going into another company and they're selling a service, be it educational skills, or, you know, you can get someone in agriculture who actually wants to sell animals overseas as well. So it's a variety of sectors and variety of roles that you have to kind of look into with the job.
That's fantastic. It sounds like it's keeping on your toes as well, which is always good, Divya, in a job, isn't it? Makes the day go quicker, but absolutely, you know, what a fantastic country, India, and what a real rich cultural opportunity, I think, and all the opportunities that India would present. And I'm interested, Lakshmi, from your point of view about, you know, if you were a salesperson for India, what is the sell? What can you tell British national Northwest companies, the real true rich and enriching benefits of trading in India?
Yeah. So, I mean, India is quite diverse and quite vast as a country. It has a very, very large population, and we're quite proud of the human capital that we have. In terms of human resource terms, you get the cheapest, sort of one of the better deals in terms of hiring resource. It also is a place where I've said in the past to various people that if you wanted to pilot something and test it to scale, where do you go? You go to India. Anywhere in India that you go, you can test it and you can scale it up in the same breath. And it's a great, not just a laboratory for innovation, change, testing out, irrespective of what, circumstances it is. You can test out technology, you can test out product, and you can get good market sort of response as well. So my job is to make people fall in love with India, the India that I know. And I simply say that. And the role of CII is really to shape the growth story of India, but also to shape the growth story of the countries that the Indian companies or India has a presence with or a friendship with. Wow,
I've learned something today, and I'll be dead honest with you. That's when I think about innovation, piloting, and scaling up. You know, India, I'll be dead honest, wasn't front of my mind, and that's fascinating. I'm going to ask you, Divya. I'm going to pretend now. Let's a bit of role play that I am an Northwest business. I've got something to export. I want to get into the Indian market. I want to test it and pilot it. So I'm coming to knock at your door. What's the next stage? How do you support me as a business then?
We'd actually look at what you're looking to export. Have you had any experience within exporting in that part of the world, within Asia? Depending on what you're looking to export, we would identify where in India. India itself has over 1 billion population. It speaks over 26 languages. There's different religions, there's different cultures. So depending on what your actual product is, we'd then look at where would be best place it into market. And then we'd start putting together a strategy of how we will help you sell into that market. You'd need a local partner, so how to find one, what support's out there. We also sometimes have access to funding. So is there any funding available to help you in regards to making this journey a lot more easier and smoother, and really being your point of contact for information, in regards to wanting to trade into India.
And do you both do trade delegations in opposite directions? I saw Andy Burnham, our mayor, Manchester last year. There's a great, fantastic, I think he was away for a week, wasn't he? A real representation of Great Manchester. And that I have to say, from the outside in, just look fantastic. So do you both regularly do the kind of like...
We do. Yeah. I mean, and also just taking forward the point of Divya. So when the Department of International Trade get queries on which companies are interested in India, now with India being so diverse and so vast, how do you find out and how do you shortlist where they need to go? CII has an extensive sort of network of around 67 offices in India. which means that every single state in India and union territory will have more than one offices. We also have centers of excellence. We also have a network of around 300,000 indirect and direct members, direct 9,000 members, all Indian companies and associations. So that's as diverse and as vast as you're saying. We have a dedicated market facilitation team who will be able to conduct the market research that you need for a particular company. So, for example, ventilators or PPE kits and things like that. If you need paracetamol, I mean, we help you with paracetamol as well. And so you'd need not just access to the business opportunity, you'd need the facilitative policy environment. You'd need to know what are the rules and regulations if you're exporting or, having some business trade related sort of, business engagement. You'd need to know what are the policies, what are the custom laws, what are the things at the local level, what are the labeling laws, for example, if you're manufacturing something food wise or otherwise. So there are various layers and layers and layers of paperwork that you need to do. And people will tell you there's a lot of paperwork that you need to do. So CII has been campaigning with the Indian government, and it has worked very well to help enhance the ease of doing business, opportunity in India. And that has, you've seen in the last year or so, shot up to 63rd place around the world, which is remarkable. I mean, from being 100 something to 63rd, which is heartening. And it's almost like a public-private partnership that we facilitate. So any business intel, market intel that you need, you get it via our sort of extensive network. We have dedicated teams doing just that. So it's you identify a sort of a company, and then we help you matchmake them jointly. And it's almost like we're your complementary partners, if you like, on the ground.
That's brilliant. I mean, we all need hand-holding, certainly in business. Certainly, I imagine, for the international trade, and it's just, it's great to hear that. So I do appreciate there's a lot of regulatory tape that businesses have to go through, and you talk there about the lengthy process, and fantastic that you're lobbying to maybe ease that, and that's happened, had some success. I mean, come to you, Divya, about I suppose the regulatory process. Is that something again that you work and support and can guide people through?
Yes, definitely. DIT actually help businesses in regards to overcome various regulations. If it's, for example, a chemical company has a number of regulations that they have to comply by, understand routes into market. So what we do is we work with the DIT team in India. We have offices across India who also work coincide with CII. We have specialists in various sectors, be it food and drink, chemicals, ICT, various other sectors that we do focus on, and we then work closely with CII to find out where the areas of difficulties are, how the business can overcome them, what the opportunities are in regards to finding a route around that obstacle, and also the CII also do the lobbying side with the support of DIT as well, because British businesses also need to be heard of the difficulties they have within the market. So if it is something that can't be overcome, then the voices do get heard to make it more easier to export to. So it's not a case of, oh, well, we can't find a route in, sorry, let's look somewhere else. It is very important to be aware that we do have a fantastic relationship with various partners. CII are one of the key partners who can help us in lobbying this and helping to support British businesses to sell overseas and sell into India.
Fantastic, Divya. Is it fully funded, or is there a cost to the business?
The support itself is free. So in regards to getting our expertise, our knowledge, speaking to commercial officers overseas, all that information is available for free. There's a number of reports you can tap into. There are some chargeable services, and we always notify the businesses when they are. But being a government organisation, they are heavily subsidised. Market research reports are something that we provide, and that's a chargeable service. We we can help with matchmaking, anything that does involve a cost. We do notify the businesses, but like I mentioned, they are heavily subsidized, and a good, I'd say 99% of the service we provide is free, a government organization to help businesses to export.
Thank you. You're listening to the Inspiring International Potential podcast, and today we're talking about India and trading with India, and two fantastic guests who are leading the way, giving us some advice and giving us some tips and nuggets. But Lakshmi, you earlier talked about PPE, and we can't have a podcast in the current climate without mentioning COVID and COVID-19. It's been a challenging, well over 100 days now for all countries. And I just want to find out really what's happening in the current situation in India regarding COVID-19. And are there any areas that are opportunities for exporting within the market that the Northwest companies should be aware of?
Certainly. I mean, in fact, CI have been at the forefront of helping not just respond to the pandemic crisis, working very, very closely with the government of India. In fact, our theme for 2021, I mean, it's our 125th year. We would typically be celebrating and doing big celebrations, but it's become a poignant pause in reshaping the journey for India and Indian industry economy. So our theme is called Building India for a New World, Lives, Livelihood and Growth. And we've actually coined a term called BC, before COVID, to live through the DC, which is during COVID, and we must prepare for the AC, which is after COVID. And the CII has actually laid out a 10-point roadmap to reactivate growth and help the country navigate through the uncharted waters, not just in India, but around the world. So things like protecting lives and livelihoods, which of course the UK has been doing extensively as well, prioritizing the healthcare and education, looking after the nature, Mother Nature, and looking after, increased natural calamities require equal response and preparation. Looking at the fiscal deficit and how the financial stability can be organized as well. We've made some recommendations, and the government has been sort of paying cognizance to that. That has a strong bearing on international companies coming into the UK, so into India. Then, I mean, distribution of the economic pain, which again determines how comfortable it will be for any company coming into India to sort of work. The role of the digital and the physical, so almost plugging the gap between the urban and the rural connect, and making sure that we're connected both physically, infrastructurally, as well as, digitally. Looking after the social security, future of jobs, that's more local, but then also protects the interests of any companies coming in and creating jobs, which is very, very important for any economy. I've talked about the rural and urban rebalancing, the 4 levers of growth, looking at growth, investment, consumption, net exports, and government expenditure. Those are the kind of recommendations that we've made with the government to get growth back and make it non-negotiable, really.
I'm loving it. Building India for a new world. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? And that says, you should hear that, and all listeners who are tuning into this, that there's opportunity. We are going through, the world is going through a very challenging and tough time. The economies are struggling or are being very challenged at the moment. But we do hold out that hope, and there is opportunity. And what I'm hearing there, Lakshmi, is building India back for a new world is really the focus from India, looking at the opportunities available and ahead of us. Divya, I want to bring you back in here because I want to just briefly again touch on for you for COVID-19, and to see if you have experienced any different change of path or any kind of innovation or opportunities from Northwest companies that are looking to trade with India. I think you may have had there was an earlier interaction there about some PPE, I think it was, or there's something that Lakshmi had set up. So anything you can add to that?
There is the example that Lakshmi gave is of an organisation that was working like a consortium to help to find the vaccine for COVID, and it was trying to find the manufacturers of the vaccine and working together with them. And it was more to manufacture the vaccine for the Indian people as well, because they'd found manufacturers across the world, and they needed to locate key contacts within India. And so we worked together with Lakshmi to identify people to get the correct people talking to each other, because obviously this was a priority, and to move fast. Another example I can give is when everything kind of stopped, manufacturing stopped, production stopped. I think companies then also started looking at different markets to move production to in the future, because many companies would produce their products in one country, which predominantly would be China, and many are now looking at diversifying this and kind of spreading out the production, looking at maybe we should look at different markets to start smaller productions, purely because if this was to happen in the future, it's not a case of a complete stop. There's 2 or 3 other factories or production facilities that they can tap into to keep, obviously, the businesses running.
No, absolutely. The opportunity, isn't it? It almost sounds the wrong thing to talk about opportunity in a crisis, but out of the crisis does come opportunity, and we've talked a lot on previous podcasts about pivoting and how businesses have to pivot quite quickly, and to move into areas. So that's been really helpful. I think, can I move forward really? So there's a misconception, I believe, about doing business in India as a woman, and I'd love to just raise this with you to kind of get your thoughts on that. And what would your response be to that, Lakshmi?
Well, it's a misconception that doing business in India is difficult. Period. Whether or not you're a woman isn't actually relevant. But I'm very pleased to say that a majority of the workforce in India is primarily women. Women are quite prominently, from spacecrafts to fighter jets to manufacturing plants to driving to bartending to research, innovation, scientists, to businesswomen, chief execs of companies, staff in companies, startups, everything, you name it, and women are very, very prominently working long hours, working flexibly, working to make a change, not just in India, but around the world. So it's a misconception, really. And there is a campaign sort of launched by the Prime Minister of India, Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. So educate the girl child and save her future. And there's a lot of focus on encouraging women into entrepreneurship as well. There's a focus on encouraging entrepreneurship in general. At CII, we have, I think our staff is very heavily, we call them the power women, and it's very heavily, most units are headed by women, and it doesn't say that we exclude men, but we've never viewed colleagues as male or female. We viewed them as colleagues, and it's all very proudly, that it's not, you don't view them as a gender, but you view them as a capability or talent. So that's the general attitude across the board. You meet entrepreneurs, you meet startups, they wouldn't say that we've got a woman in our company because we need women in our company. Of course, there are, I was in India recently and I took a taxi from the airport. It was all women-run taxi. And I was quite interested to see how this is. They were, very smartly dressed in uniform, very organized. So there are these initiatives to particularly emphasize on the women, workforce. But it's a misnomer. Whether you're talking about the big cities or you're talking about the tier 2, tier 3 cities, there is a big attitudinal shift. Also because the infrastructure is changing with the more digital the Digital India campaign in the country is helping make a bit more secure and safe environment for people to work in general. So yeah, no, women do a lot of work in India. So do the men.
It's absolutely brilliant to hear that. The misconception must come from someplace, but for me, it's just, I think of India, I think of most culturally diverse, fantastic place. I just see it, I see that. Yeah. And long may that continue. So it's an emerging economy, cracking place.
Yeah.
And can you believe it? We're coming almost to the end. This is we could be here all day. I know we could, because there's lots of things to talk about. But Lakshmi, just very briefly, when I think about India, I think about Mumbai. and I think about New Delhi. Are there any other areas other than Mumbai and New Delhi that are of interest? That here's the opportunity to sell.
Well, it's the same thing when people come to the UK. They think of London. They don't even think of Manchester, right? So, so it's the same thing. My Director General, sort of my boss, has said in the past that the growth of India is in its regions and in its villages and in its states, and the same way the growth of England, in the United Kingdom, is in its regions and is in its various sort of parts of the country, not just in London. Of course, big cities take their show stealers, but actually it's the underdogs that will actually, take the journey far ahead. So yeah, I mean, pan-India from Jammu and Kashmir to Tamil Nadu, you'd go wherever you go, from east to the west, to north to the south. There are tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. A lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities are benefiting now from increased connectivity. So flights, greater number of flights, connectivity by road, by train, digital connectivity. So, I mean, currently you don't even have to be limited in terms of who you want to talk to. So through us and through our network, you are able to access anywhere in the country that you do. It's all business, almost like a fast track business meeting, because you don't even have to spend money on traveling to anywhere anymore. You just need to make sure that you know who you want to talk to. So somebody from Nagaland or even Maharashtra, which is not just say, for example, Mumbai, but you can talk to somebody in Nagpur or somebody in Delhi or the NCR, and then go beyond in Haryana and Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. You can go to Rajasthan if you like, within moments. So yeah, I mean, there are many states, and each one has a capability. I think was it the year before last, or was it the last year? Time's just been you can't keep track of time, but we did a Northern Powerhouse India capability report with the Manchester India Partnership, of which we are the board members. CI is the founding board member of the Manchester India Partnership, and which was set up primarily to help leverage the Northern Powerhouse, opportunity. And that's something that lays out the capability across India. And I remember insisting that we don't just focus on Maharashtra and the north, Delhi or Mumbai, but look at the capabilities per sector across the country, and then look at the entire Northern Powerhouse and see what are the capabilities sector-wise that are available for India. Because the gap that has been, and we felt that, is for companies not to know where to go. Yeah. And that remains like the primary information gap, and that market intelligence will only come from people like us and yourselves, that so from people like Divya and her team, to try and connect that understanding or information gap, and saying that, well, look, don't just look at Mumbai. Of course, go to Mumbai. It's the financial capital of India.
Yeah.
But also go and look beyond. Maybe if you're going to Maharashtra alone, and then you travel around, go to Pune, manufacturing hub. Go to Nagpur, look at exports there. So it's wherever you go, you have an opportunity. Gujarat is quite a flourishing, state in India as well. So there are many. Telangana is fast coming up. Andhra Pradesh doing, extremely well. I can talk about every single state. And
there is
a real representation there. You've done India proud. I have to say that.
And I am very Indian looking. I mean, I'm wearing a khadi, fabric right now. It's
lovely. It's lovely.
I mean, just echoing what Lakshmi said, it's trying to match up the sectors within the north with sectors in India. It's fine to say, like with all businesses, that they want to be in the big cities. We want to be in London, New York, Mumbai, but going into those cities, it's difficult because there's opportunities are very scarce, and there's so many other businesses trying to get into the same cities. The tier 2 to tier 3, those are the areas of focus. There are an abundance of opportunities within India, within these smaller cities, the up and coming cities. In regards to a number of sectors, we took a ICT mission, a tech mission out to India in February 2019, and we attended a number of seminars, and one of the key areas that they were focusing on was healthcare, and they were looking at using technology and healthcare and bringing the two together to get healthcare out into the rural areas, be it through in an app form, FaceTime form, making sure that, because the patient to doctor ratio in India is 1,445 to 1 doctor. So it's trying to get these individuals where healthcare shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a given, and trying to get healthcare out there to people within the rural area. So there are niches of opportunities like this for businesses, and this is where DIT and CII can come together and identify them and put them out there for businesses to tap into and showcase themselves within the market.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Divya. I'm going to come back to you both in a second and ask you for your, because we're wrapping up in a second, your one tip, one big piece of advice for anyone who's thinking about trading in India. So I'm going to come back, just going to give you about 20 seconds to think about that. You are listening to Inspiring International Potential, and we're having a fascinating debate and discussion all about India. And sadly, we're coming to a close. We've had a really good insight into the challenges and opportunities of India and India trade. And I really would like to thank my guests. But before they disappear, final questions to Lakshmi. If I was going to open a company in India, what's your one piece of advice? Well,
make sure that you've done your market research before going in, and go to India with an open mind. I'm right now campaigning for Handmade in India. But it's mutual opportunities for both countries if you work together. Find yourself a local partner, and we are here to service you, support you together with the DIT. Come with an open mind. Don't just limit yourselves, and you'll be surprised at the opportunities. You may even, break even in the first year, and that's unknown for, but can happen.
Well, absolutely. Open mind and breaking even. That's that. You've laid down the challenge there now. I think, and hopefully, your phone will be ringing hot off the on that one. And Divya, you too. I think your phone should be. But again, Divya, from your perspective, one piece of advice for anyone in the north that's listening that would like to get on board and take any opportunity that India has to offer.
Patience. It's a fantastic market once you get in there, but it's not going to happen overnight. As well as you're doing your research, you have to be patient. Indian businesses like to get to know you, like to get to know your business. They like to get to know your values overall, not just kind of, here's a contract, let's sign it and move on. So you've got to bear that in mind, that you have to be ready to build a relationship with the owners and managers and people that you're selling to, and that takes time. You have to go out there 2, 3, maybe even 4 times, just so they can know you and have that confidence to want to do business with you. Just because you're from Manchester, you're from England, yes, that does have some weight, but where you get more weight is by getting to know you as a person. And you'll be surprised how many businesses do not take place purely because the people didn't gel. You have to have that patience.
Patience.
Yeah. And to assume that you'll actually strike a business deal by just emailing or cold calling will not work. No. We're very warm people. We like to see and talk to you and break bread with you. And the relationship is very, very important. Yeah. And as soon as that relationship and friendship is struck, you will be surprised at the opportunities that
Right. Talk about the weather, talk about cricket, talk about football.
Don't talk about cricket yet.
It's an icebreaker. It's an icebreaker. It will start the ball rolling. Don't be shy to ask about the family if it's the first time you've met them, because it's like you're taking interest in the person rather than it's just being all about business as well.
And on that note, I think we all like to talk about football, and if you had given me that halfway through, we could have spent half a podcast on football. But no, joking aside, thank you for listening to Inspiring International Potential. If you're interested in finding out more about trading with India, we have a handy guide on the subject which we can send you. Simply email marketing@tradenw.org or visit international.growth.co.uk to download it. Watch out for our other episodes in this series where we're talking about international SEO, the healthcare and chemical sectors, and doing business in the Middle East. Finally, I'd like to thank my guests, brilliant guests, Lakshmi and Divya. Thank you for joining us today, being so generous with your time and your resources and your expertise. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.